welcome, confidants, to another episode of Confidently Insecure, the podcast where we're absolutely sure we don't know everything. I am your host, Kelsey, Darragh, and this week, man, we really are emphasizing that we don't know everything, which is why I wanted to do this episode, because help me. I'm old. I'm getting old. I look old. You ever have that feeling where one day you wake up and you just realize you don't look tired, you look older? And nobody warned you about this shit. They sure didn't. Okay? I'm 34. I love being in my 30s. It's so fun. It's great. But I do feel like this is the first time in my life that my reflection is like, hi, have you met your mortality yet? Like, I don't know if it's just because I'm immature and mentally still in my 20s, because I'm dating someone in their 20s, or I just feel like maybe I peaked in my 20s and I'm like still trying to like career-wise live out the best times of my job in my 20s. But I have never really had this feeling before. Like, I'm so anti the messaging that we give women about their bodies and their face and like, you know, the age you're supposed to achieve certain things. Like, I'm so anti all of that shit. And yet I care about the way my face looks. Like, I just feel like things are starting to happen to it that I'm like, that wasn't there before. And I'm starting to consider certain procedures and things at an age that I didn't think about. Like, of course I was like, oh yeah, I'll be the lady that definitely has a facelift. But now I'm like, should I be getting like an eye lift right now? Like, holy fuck. It's the first time I've ever like given a shit about that. And listen, I'm vain, I'm curious, and I want to live. And so I started just looking into different podcasts and YouTube videos and TikToks and things like that about the science of longevity and aging. And I was mostly trying to find like a cure for my feelings of insecurity, but instead I went way too deep, as one with ADHD and a hyperfixation does, into research from like world-class experts, just to name a few: Dr. Peter Attia, Dr. Nathan Bryan, Dr. David Sinclair, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, to figure out these questions. Confidants, why do we age? What is actually happening? And most importantly, what can I do about it? What can we do about it before I wake up another day looking like a baked potato that got cold? You know, like, at least a hot baked potato is like delicious and warm and everyone's excited about it. Like a cold baked potato, you're like, oh, what happened to it? In listening to all of my research and like getting excited for doing a podcast about aging, I was listening to an episode of Diary of a CEO, which I know he gets like very viral video clips and memes, and he's got such a soothing voice. But he had a guest on that talked about these facts that, as I started listening to them, I was like, oh, I'm right to fear getting older. Like, I am fearful, and I don't want to instill that fear onto you all now. But I do want to go over like the couple of moments of the things that this guy talked about that made me go like, oh, I should care. I shouldn't fear aging, because there are things to, spoiler alert, slow it down, and prevent certain things from happening with your aging. And there are things you should be doing right now, like today, like little things. And I also don't want to work too hard, so give me little tangible things that I can do. I don't want to exert too much energy, but I do want to make small little changes, because I spent so much of my adolescent and early 20s like being unkind to my body, that now I'm really on that kick. Y'all know how I am with my yoga, my cold plunge, and all that nonsense. So, the thing about this episode that I was listening to with Dr. Peter Attia, he had talked about injury prevention, right? Like, he was talking about weightlifting, and why recently in the last like 2 years it came out that like weightlifting was actually like the one thing you could do to help. It's like the best form of exercise that came out that the world agreed, all these doctors and scientists agreed that weightlifting was the thing you should do if you were only going to learn to do one thing. And I remember hearing that and being like, okay, it makes sense, but why? Like, I understand strength is important, and that's correct. Like, the number one important thing when preventing like age related injuries is having strength, and then the next is like endurance or something like that, like with your cardiovascular health. So this guy was using this example about like falling, right? Like if you trip right now a little bit, you're able to catch yourself, right? But as you get older, we hear about these falls with these older folks, and why they are so detrimental is because they were not doing things that they should have been doing in their 30s and 40s to prevent those falls, right? So injuries are not just temporary setbacks after a certain age. And I felt this with my knee injury. Like, I injured my knee, I tore my ACL and then my meniscus twice. And I always said, like, I never felt like I ever got back to the way I was before. And I'm like, man, this is totally what this guy is talking about. And he talks about how injuries in these ages can actually be the start of a decline, because you're not young anymore. You don't just bounce back after an injury, you know? And after 40 and 50 years old, if you get injured, you're not bouncing back to that baseline, because you lose strength, endurance, and mobility forever after a certain age unless you actively work to intentionally rebuild it, right? So there's like a threshold that once you pass a certain age, you won't get more strength, endurance, and mobility in your 40s and 50s if you don't start training it now in your 30s. Like, once you pass a certain age, you just won't be able to achieve and unlock that level of what you could be unless you start doing it in your 30s. And hi, it's me. I am not doing any of this. So he talked about falls being the leading cause of accidental death in adults over 65. And one bad fall, confidants, there's a high chance of death within a year after the age of 65 after having a bad fall. Even if you survive the initial injury. This actually has a name. It's called the death spiral in geriatric medicine. After a serious fall after the age of 65, only 50% of people ever fully recover to their previous levels of function. And the other 50%, this is half. This is every other person, either never regain full mobility, meaning they can't like walk or live independently like before, so they need use of a walker or whatever, or they croak within 12 months of that fall. That's nuts. And I heard that and I was like, oh, okay. So it's not really my face I should be worried about. It's like I should be looking at my body as a whole. This is a whole body thing I need to be looking at and working on. There was a quote that he said, like, you don't die from falling at 80. You die from being too weak at 40 to build the strength that could have saved you. Oh my God, y'all. This is stuff we can be doing today that later us is going to thank us for, right? Okay, so I heard these things about this aging statistics, and I was like sitting in my bathtub. I was looking at my knee, and I was going like, oh my God, I got a lot of work to do. So this is when I went down into my deep dive, right? So first of all, what actually is aging, right? Like, it's not just wrinkles the way that I'm talking about. And it's not just like feeling a little bit slower after a crazy night out, which I do say often after a night out. I'm always like, God, you get more tired? Or like, here's a popular one. You ever be like, man, my hangovers are way worse in my 30s. Or like, oh, my hangovers are way worse in my late 20s. They say that aging is not just the passive passage of time. Aging is a active process of decay, dysfunction, and degeneration. It's a disease, this one guy says. We don't just die, right, of random causes. We die of predictable age-related diseases. We were talking like your cardiovasculars, your cancers, your strokes, etc. All of them have this underlying cause and driver, which is aging. You're getting older. And I don't mean like you can't have cancer when you're young, right? Like you can't have these things, but there are a lot of diseases that majority of them come later in life. If you think about it, like all of your parents' friends are getting sick, or like, your grandparents are no longer with us. Like that's the stuff we're talking about, is like there is an underlying commonality in all of those things, and that's the process of aging. And scientifically, you can point to why these diseases are popping up in those older ages. So we're going to talk about that, right? If you were able to slow aging itself, you wouldn't just prevent one disease, right? You would slow all of them. It's like kind of like taking out the queen bee instead of swatting at each little thing individually, like one by one, right? Like in the medical community, they were talking about how there's like a movement happening to officially try to recognize aging as a treatable condition, because if you slow it, you can drastically increase your health span in life. And this is like health span is like being alive and healthy, not just like alive and miserable, right? Like you can be alive and be like, oh, I don't want to be here. Like I can't walk on my own. I can't take care of myself. This is like you can actually live a longer, better life. And I feel like we are pushed so much messaging about like anti-aging this, and like there's a big swing around like biohacking right now, and it's really good that all of these words are getting popularity and movement, and like people are actually starting to give a shit. Like I've never seen more people in my life who cold plunge. Like that's an amazing thing, right? And so it was really important to me to look up stuff and resources that were science backed and have like resources and are indisputable facts. So that's what I was trying to look up to talk about aging, right? Like another way to put it is David Sinclair, a geneticist at Harvard, says that aging is a loss of information, like scratches on a CD. The music is still there, but the player can't read it anymore. So it's not just about like, for me, like looking older, right? If I scale back and I go to like, what is this? Like what is happening deep inside of me on a cellular level? It's about my cells literally forgetting how to keep me alive the way it used to, right? Like my cells are like, oh my God, sun exposure, pollution, stress, bad food, all of those things are creating scratches on the CD of my like age, and is, now that like my body is trying to play the CD, it's getting all of these scratches. And like what caused these scratches? It's things like, your cells that should repair your skin don't anymore because you're older. Cells that should have killed off like damaging neighbors, like cancer cells, get lazy, right? Your stem cells stop renewing properly. Your body's growth repair systems are slowing down or misfiring. So David Sinclair says that aging isn't about the DNA going bad necessarily. Like your DNA is mostly intact. And here comes a big word, but stick with me. I got a good metaphor for this. It's the epigenetic information. So like if your DNA is like, I don't know, a library, the epigenome is the librarian that's going to take out the book and like tell you what you need to read. So it's not like your DNA is bad anymore. It's the epigenetic information, or like that software inside of the cells that tells like which genes to turn on or off or react or don't react, is getting messed up, right? Like that's how my cells are forgetting to behave young and healthy, which I know that's a lot of like science for a silly entertainment fun podcast. But I wanted to explain to you, like, I'm such a person that if I can get like a visual or understand the science behind something, it helps me just like apply it and be able to regurgitate it back to people. So for me, like visually, that's very helpful. Like, okay, so my librarian's a little bit drunk and she's like giving my DNA the wrong book, and my DNA is like trying to repair a car with jet ski parts. Like when I think about the scratches on my CD or like feeling glitchy, I think about, the random aches in my body. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a little sore. Like, why does my back hurt just from sleeping? Or like forgetting words, or having like brain fog, or a big one for me is not being able to stay out late anymore. And if I do stay out late, I feel hungover the next day. It's crazy. I feel it very, very hard. So let's talk quickly about the 3 biggest killers that nobody is talking about, right? So again, I felt like looking at my body and my face and having all of these like external dissatisfactions with myself, I was like, okay, hating this wrinkle isn't going to explain what's actually going on at a deeper level, right? Like I might feel old, but I don't know if I actually am. Like what is going on inside of my body, and why do I feel this way, right? Like I can feel anxious, but unless I know why my central nervous system is acting a fool, I can't really treat the anxiety, right? So for me, it was like, okay, I can put Botox in this wrinkle, but I'm not treating the underlying problem. So I again listen to way too many podcasts, watch way too many YouTube videos and TikToks. But these were like the 3 biggest things that I kept hearing over and over again, and they're things that, like, again, no one is really talking about. So the first thing, and stay with me, is the loss of nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide, you're like, WTF is that? It's not nitrous, which is the thing that they use in Fast and Furious. And it's also not the laughing gas you have at the dentist. No. Nitric oxide is basically like the first responder of your body, right? So if you don't have nitric oxide, your healing slows down. Like your blood flow gets worse, and all of that can speed up aging. But the best part about nitric oxide is that you can replace it and reboost it and replenish it by freaking eating some damn spinach and breathing out your nose. Stay with me. Let me explain. By the time you're 40, you make half of the nitric oxide you made at 20. So we're already working at a disadvantage here because of all the things that are happening. Remember, our DNA and our librarians aren't telling things what they're supposed to do. So then your body's like, oh, I'm not even making nitric oxide. Okay, this is bad. Without nitric oxide, there's no healing, right? Like there's no youthfulness. There's no cells repairing your damaged skin. There's no life. And here's one crazy thing that this guy talked about that destroys nitric oxide. Mouthwash. What? That was one thing I didn't know. I'll explain more, but other things that can kill nitric oxide: mouth breathing, low sunlight exposure, things that you're like doing every day, right? Like things that we're not realizing are stacking up against our nitric oxide. So how do we get nitric oxide right now naturally? Your cells inside of your blood vessels produce nitric oxide naturally when stimulated by things like sunlight, exercise, or breathing correctly. Also through diet. Foods high in natural nitrates are beets, arugula, and spinach. But going back to the mouthwash thing, bacteria in your mouth converts nitrates into nitric oxide inside your body. And this guy talked about the study that they did where they tested a bunch of like the blood and people who died of heart attacks, and they were like mixing their nitric oxide, and they also found that in their mouths, and they were like, wait, why don't they have it in their mouths where it's supposed to be? And then they realized that the dentist industry basically was like, you need to kill all bacteria in your mouth, but some bacteria is good bacteria that converts things that we need inside of our body. And that's why they're all up in a hoopla about fluoride. I never understood why we like hated fluoride, and I understand it like keeps us healthy and like builds strong bones, but it also is killing bacteria that we need for our bodies to use to like stay alive and stuff like that. Why do we lose it as we age? So by 30 to 40, like I said, your nitric oxide production drops by 50%. Your blood vessels stiffen. Things that just become like lifestyle habits, like poor diet or stress or smoking, all of these things choke your body's ability to create nitric oxide. And again, I wanted to know what are like little tiny things I could do to boost it that aren't the obvious, like sleep better, do more walking, blah, blah, blah. So nasal breathing. Let's talk about it. Y'all know I love mouth taping. I will scream and shout about mouth taping the day I die. Breathing through your nose increases nitric oxide production in your nasal pathways. Avoiding mouthwash. Like I said, stop using antiseptic mouthwash. It kills the good bacteria that help make nitric oxide from your food. Cold showers, cold exposure. These have also shown evidence to boost nitric oxide. Okay, so we need that. Be out on the lookout for more nitric oxide. Another thing that is slowly killing us all that no one talks about is mitochondrial dysfunction. And I know what you're thinking, Kelsey. Mitochondria, all I remember is that it's the powerhouse of the cell. That is right. And while we joke about that being the only information we kept from high school, it is actually important for this next section. So mitochondria are your body's little like energy factories, right? They're out there like, ooh, ooh, choo, choo, let's go to work. Let's make energies. They're not just powerhouses of those cells, though. They are actually the gatekeepers of life and death. Okay? Because when they fail, aging accelerates. Disease accelerates when aging accelerates. This is all connected. Remember? Do I sound like a conspiracy theorist this episode? Do I need a little tinfoil hat? Okay, so what suffocates mitochondria, right? Basically, your mitochondria used to be like a young little 20-year-old, okay? And she was able to clean up after her methods because she had so much energy, because all of her DNA were getting their library books from the right place, and they were able to clean up the method that they were making. But because mitochondria makes energy, when it makes energy, it's also putting off this like byproduct. It is making free radicals, which are basically like unstable molecules that damage cells, right? So it's like when our little like young mitochondria are having a party, and she's like, yes, I know I'm going to have this crazy party. And like, because I'm having this crazy party at the house, I'm going to have like these crazy drunk people over and they're going to make a mess in my house. That's fine. I have enough energy, and like, I'm so young, I can stay up late and clean up and it's going to be fine. My parents will never know I had this party. Well, as we get older, stress piles up, life happens. We stop getting the library books to the right places from the right people. And she can't clean up like she used to. She's like, oh, I'll deal with it in the morning. Oh, I'll clean that mess when I get older. She's too old to be able to do the things she once doing, cleaning up those messes when she was like a little young mitochondria, right? So Dr. Rhonda Patrick, who is like very well respected and very loved on all these podcasts and stuff, she talks, I adore. She talks about how mitochondria sits in the blast zone of their very own energy production. So like now she's making a mess and she living in it. Okay. And that's not good for our mitochondria. So as you age, the signaling to create new mitochondria weakens. You're stuck with fewer, crappier mitochondria trying to do the work of 10 times what they could do when they were 20. So what makes our mitochondria slow down? What makes her tired? What makes her weaken? You guessed it. All the shit you already fucking know, right? I'm talking about too much sitting, too much sugar, crappy sleep, too much stress, like all the stuff we know to be true. And I am the most guilty of sugar, sugar, sugar. All of those things are killing our mitochondria. Okay. So what can we do to fix? Well, they talk about how we should focus on things like zone 2 cardio, which is essentially low intensity but long duration. So like think fast walking or biking, stuff that you can do like while still talking and having a conversation. That grows mitochondria. Cold exposure, so 30 to 60 seconds of cold showers, cryotherapy, that can stimulate new mitochondria production. Strength training, just what we were talking about, squats, deadlifts, those compound lifts that we were talking about before. Sauna use, heat stress proteins protect and repair mitochondrial damage. And I learned this from the athlete today. If you do a sauna 3 times a week, it lowers your chances of dying from cardiovascular related diseases by 23%. That's nanners. All you have to do is sit and get baked like a potato. Eating, I'm not going to try and pronounce this word, polyphenol rich foods. So think berries, green tea, dark chocolate, natural antioxidants, and getting good sleep. The more you hit deep sleep, the more time your powerhouse of the cell has to recharge and rejuvenate. When we come right back, we're going to talk about chronic inflammation, or inflammaging as they call it. What is inflammaging? Well, Dr. Claudio Franceschi coined the term inflammaging. It's essentially like low grade, constant inflammation that is silently rotting you from the inside. It doesn't hurt and you don't feel it. And that's why it is a silent killer. It is very damaging to our body. It doesn't hit you until later and you're like, ow, I'm hurting. So how does it happen? Your immune system is theoretically supposed to flare up when there's an infection or energy, right? Like a fire alarm that goes off when you burn toast. That's like you get sick, your immune system's like, hey, you feel like shit, sit down, and then you sleep and you get better. But with inflammaging, the fire alarm never fully turns off. So your immune system is essentially staying slightly activated all the time, even when there is nothing urgent happening in your body. So those ongoing damages of having your fire alarm like beeping in the background all the time are affecting your blood vessels, the collagen in your skin, neurons, which control like your brain fog, muscles, and metabolism. So literally like being inflamed all the time, a little bit, is going to fuck up your wrinkles. You're going to get saggier. You're going to get heart disease. You're at risk for dementia. You're losing your strength and stamina, which we know can cause falls, and you gain weight and become insulin resistant. It's like your body is constantly under a slow little arson attack, which is not like something you notice every day, right? Like it's not like something you're aware of. But 5 years later, you're like, wait, why does everything hurt now? And I'm dying of arson poisoning. So what I'm trying to say is basically modern life is a scam. Everything from like doom scrolling at midnight to eating sad airport sandwiches is like a full-time job aging you quietly. Okay. I'm so guilty of eating airport sandwiches and Cinnabon. It's just these small little things that we're doing. So being inflamed, no bueno. And if you live with chronic inflammation because you have like a chronic disease or like chronic pain, like yeah, girl here, there are things you can do to try and lessen that inflammation. And a big one that they talked about is doing the anti-inflammatory diet, which is eating like a Greek person, essentially, was what I came up with. It's like olive oils, fatty fishes, leafy greens, berries, nuts. Yeah, think of it as like you're not just getting older because time is passing. You're getting older because your immune system thinks it's under attack and has to work overtime 24/7. So look, I know I just gave you a whole lot of shit, but I've got good news. There are things that we can do that can actually help that nobody talks about, right? So there are things that have won like Nobel Peace Prizes and are, you know, we're living in the modern day and age of like the craziest medicine we've ever had. And science is amazing now. And there are agreements across the medical field that we can actually slow down the process of aging. So we're talking about when I talk about slowing down the process of aging, I'm talking about all the things we just talked about. So restoring our nitric oxide, we're building our powerhouse of our little mitochondrial cells, and we are slowing down inflammation or inflammaging, which is that chronic inflammation. So again, these are real things that you can do that have been proven to slow down aging, and they are not expensive or gatekept by like billionaires who drink baby blood. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Again, fix your nitric oxide. We're going to throw out antibacterial mouthwashes. We're not going to get fluoride rinses at the dentist. We are going to eat high nitrate foods like beets, arugula, spinach, and celery. And you're going to get some damn sunlight on your skin. Okay? We're going to focus on zone 2 cardio. So not that HIIT training, not that high intensity stuff. Make your majority of cardios slow and steady where you can still hold a conversation. That builds your mitochondrial health like nothing else. And think about just doing that like 30 to 45 minutes. Put on a podcast, call your bestie, FaceTime with someone you need to catch up with, and walk about in a high-paced way. Next, we're going to do saunas and cold showers, okay? The study at the JAMA International Medicine in 2015 said saunaing 2 times to 3 times a week is equal to 40% lowering all causes of mortality. What the fuck, guys? Getting hot like that? We need to be doing that more. I need to go in a hot sauna more often. And remember, cold exposure builds new mitochondria. So you don't need to do a cold plunge like I've got one. You can end your shower with like 30 to 60 seconds of cold water. Hate your life temporarily. Love yourself later. Okay. Strength training. Remember, Dr. Peta Attia said if exercise could be bottled in a pill, it would be the most powerful drug for aging ever invented. And strength training would be the highest dose. So that means the best way to fight that anti-aging is doing a little bit of weightlifting, a little bit of strength training, because hot girls lift heavy. Okay? Challenge yourself to do something like you've never done before. Like, I hate fucking doing squats. I think it's because of my knee injury. And so I'm challenging myself to squat. And I have shitty small feet for how tall I am. I fall all the time. So I am starting to actually work on my balance. I'm standing on one of those little half balls at the gym. And I'm like standing around. If I'm like reading a book or something, I'll try and stand on one of those little balance things. I want to train my ankle mobility. I want my toesies to get better grip. I want my arches not to be so arching. Like, I want you all to focus on balance. Even if you don't have a little half ball thingy, just stand on one foot and kind of sway around and see how your balance is. I want you to strengthen that stuff down there. And you're going to protect your sleep, baby. Like it's your fucking nest egg. Like it's your 401k. Okay? They say the shorter your sleep, the shorter your lifespan. I believe it, because sleep helps your brain clean up all that mess it's made. It's got wondrous duties for hormone repair. It's important in skin rejuvenation. We all know about the practical hacks of getting better sleep, like no caffeine afternoon or like using blackout curtains. But I love using magnesium, and you need to use magnesium glycinate, by the way. I didn't realize this. I think I discovered it on the podcast live one time with you guys, where I was like, oh, I didn't realize magnesium makes you sleepy, because I was taking it in the morning. And then I'm like, man, I hope this Adderall kicks in soon. I'm tired. And have a consistent sleep schedule. Like, basically just treat your bedtime like you're a toddler on parole. Like, you know what to do. You know to sleep with your phone not in your room. You know not to like trying to activate your brain. You know to go read at night. All of those little things are going to help your sleep improve. And these are like a little bit more advanced tools, but I also got into like the supplement side of TikTok and how and why it actually helps. And I've actually done an ad read for one of these things here, and I actually use it myself daily, boosting your NAD plus levels. But again, of course, always ask your doctor about supplements and things like that, because I've got stuff you don't have, you've got stuff I don't have. You want to make sure you're taking the right levels and things. But NAD plus or like NMN supplements, which all of these things you can get on Amazon. And I learned that most supplements, except for like a few, and you can look up which ones, should come to you either white or light gray. If you're getting like brown supplements, or if your supplements are turning brown, throw them away. It's even the case for like some of my like probiotics. I realize if they sit for too long, I'm like, oh, these look a little yellow. Also, there are things like peptide therapies like BPC 157. These are early researched tools that if you're in the area and you see your local place selling BPC 157 therapy, you should check it out. There are tons of TikToks trying to sell you shit. Look for the people not sponsored or not running their own supplement company. Like, find the people that aren't getting kickbacks from supplement companies, because there are a lot of people making things that are not good quality and are just in it for the messaging and the money. And the thing that pissed me off the most when I was researching all of this, because it started with me just like walking into my bathroom and realizing like my face doesn't look the way it used to, is that we don't have an anti-aging industry. We have like a hide your aging industry, right? Like, there are so many expensive serums and TikTok powders and teas and shit that patch the outside. And I am so guilty of having all of those and using them daily. But meanwhile, my mitochondria is in the basement dying like a freaking forgotten Tamagotchi. Okay. Aging isn't a beauty problem. It's your blood flow problem. It's a muscle problem. It's a mitochondria problem. It's your nitrate oxide problem. The real glow up will start inside, and it's stuff that you can be doing right now, especially if you're in your 20s, definitely in your 30s, and it's a non-negotiable in your 40s. These are all things that you should be doing, because you do not want to get to that age where something kills you early because you weren't willing to put in the work to protect yourself now. I can step off my soapbox. Is it safe? I hope that wasn't too scary. I hope it was helpful. Like, the way I think about it is like, look, I'm still going to get Botox. Okay. I'm still going to like panic Google what really is the best under eye serum. But now I am more focused on fighting that internal battle first before I go to the topical things, because none of that is going to be able to fix and treat what is deeply inside, right? Like, aging is inevitable, but how you age is going to be a choice that you make every single day, little by little. So I encourage you, confidants, to pick one single thing from today's episode, whether it's like, maybe you tape your mouth shut tonight, okay? Maybe you throw spinach in that smoothie. Maybe you lift shit today. Maybe pick a heavy box up, put it over your head. Whatever it's gonna be, just make a choice to do one little thing every single day. And before you know it, you're gonna realize that it's snowballing into a good effect for yourself. Future you will thank you. And if nothing else, just remember, hot girls breathe through their nose. Okay? Love you, confidants. See you next week. Bye.